Hey guys, so I'm in nomadic mode at the moment. There might be a few videos that I end up releasing from my car. I hope you're okay with that. I wanted to return to the story of our young INFJ who's slowly evolving in the world. We looked at the very early years of INFJ experience. We have looked at the formation of the INFJ superego. In most INFJ cases, in the sort of textbook cases, formation of a pretty strong, demanding superego and ego ideal folded into it. And we have also looked at the shaping of the NI function. Now, the INFJ child now has this fairly demanding superego, is already grappling with this notion of a destiny. All right, it's important to realize that this notion of a destiny that is very important as either as a fantasy PH or as a kind of mythical narrative in INFJ psychology is formed early on. It's not just as an adult that, you may or may not realize that you have this guiding narrative that is shaping your experience in importantly good ways, and of course with some challenges associated with it. So the narrative is, I think you might argue, fully developed by age 6 or 7. It's not fully conscious, may never become fully conscious, but it's fully articulated by then, and it's actually not that difficult to understand why, because the NI's presence, NI convergence is already there. There's an awareness of difference being misunderstood by your parents, a need to transcend this by developing, in some ways, you might argue unattainable ideal, the personification of an unattainable ideal. That's the notion of a destiny right there. Okay, and this particular side of the INFJ vision, which is so formative of INFJ experience, is not going to manifest too strongly at that particular stage. It's there, and it's there to stay. It's crystallized. It will crystallize even further with further experiences, but it will remain to some extent in the backseat of consciousness. What is going to take the front seat as the INFJ child enters what in psychoanalysis we would call the latency phase, so around age 7 until puberty, so 4 or 5 years, is actually often, from between the age of 7 and 11, let's say, a phase of relative enjoyment. The INFJ child at that age, or maybe the INFJ adult later on, often has relatively fond memories of that particular phase. That is partly to be explained by the fact that during that particular phase of our development, the drives, past the Oedipus complex, the drives are sublimated. They're sublimated and really redirected, if you like, towards an interest, the development of interests in friendship, early friendships, knowledge, creativity, imagination. So there's going to be a lot of that, including in the life of the INFJ. And the INFJ, who is in fact already contending with the very early moments, the very early phases of the choice they'll have to make in terms of the path of adaptive compliance or solipsism, particularly these two options. In a sense, it's possible to ignore it and not to really see it. What you'll tend to see is the INFJ being shy, Okay, there's a, you know, the INFJ child tends to be shy, and you can actually interpret it as already a product of their high superego, because they already feel in some part of their being like they're faulty, like they're not enough, like they're not who they should be, and they feel different. And so when they are facing the eye of the other, the gaze of the other, particularly adults, teachers, and so on, strangers, there's this hyper awareness, this self-consciousness that manifests this shyness. But in terms of their relationships with their fellow schoolmates, and given the fact that at that particular age there's a lot less there's a lot less stark difference between different personalities, like the differences in personality are not as marked as they will be later on. I think the terrain is fertile for you know, the expression of creativity and imagination, and a certain level of a good level of enjoyment and satisfaction experienced at that kind of in that phase of childhood. Things will be different as the INFJ becomes an adolescent, and we're going to look at that in the next video. Remember my Patreon page, guys. I need your support more than ever. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link is below. We've lost a fair number of supporters lately for reasons that have nothing to do with the quality of my content or anything like that. These supporters just are not in a position where they can provide support anymore, at least for now. But it means that if you can support, you know, it's a small amount every month or every year, it will be massively helpful. And you get access to our Discord server as a perk, as well as bonus videos called the Deep Dives every 2-3 weeks on a topic of your choice. And don't forget, of course, about my 2 books in the Soul series. I don't have them here to show you, but the link to those books is down below. The Ecstatic Soul on the life of the INFJ mind, and the Infinite Soul on INFJs in the world, how to find happiness, purpose, and value as an INFJ. The 2 books are below, and so is my Patreon link. Please consider supporting, and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.